Hi, and welcome to the 1 in 20 show. I'm your host, Evan Rogers, and today I'm joined by the very inspiring Rene Urbanovich. Rene is known throughout the Santa Clarita Valley for being a voice teacher and writer under her company, Creativity Advocacy. Over the years, she has obtained 3 degrees that pushed her towards self-publishing her books and marketing herself as a well-rounded artist. After damaging her vocal cords as a teenager, she has sought out to teach young adults and professionals how to properly use their vocal cords with ease and success. She's a huge advocate for the arts, and I'm very fortunate to have her on my show today. Rene, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Evan.
Yeah. Hi. I wanted to start out with voice. I felt like that was really the real topic that I have heard throughout this valley, that you, Rene, is a good vocal coach and you should go to her. And a lot of my friends in this kind of musical theater community out here have always said, oh, I go to Rene. And I was like, I wonder who that is. I've known of her for many years now. And so I wanted to just kind of hear your story about how injuring your vocal cords led you into eventually starting your business and working in the Valley for, you said 33 years now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So in this valley, probably 31 years, 31. But I started out in Burbank.
Wow.
So 2 years there. So I actually started teaching very young. I was like 19. It's really funny too, because what 19-year-old goes around? I had a big fat video camera, on my shoulder, and I would go to high schools because of what happened to me when I was 15. So the way I injured them was I was in a summer stock. It's like the Young Americans have this summer program, and we performed night after night. We had like 9 weeks together, and so we had a long run. And I got a lead as a 15-year-old, which was a huge deal, so I kind of overdid it. And I screamed a lot as an actress, not as a singer, and I lost my voice, and I really lost it. And none of the directors and, the vocal producers, the musical directors really said anything. I just lost my voice. I was hoarse the whole summer. So when I got home, my drama teacher in high school sent me to Dr. Hans von Leyden down in Westwood, because my drama teacher happened to know all these industry professionals. So I got to go down there, and I felt so special at the time, because here I was 15 years old. And, back in those days, our parents didn't even really have to jump in. I went with my best friend. She drove me down there in her little yellow Hornet. Wow. So I'm sitting there surrounded by, pictures on the wall of like Bernadette Peters and Elton John and all these famous singers. So I'm sitting there at 15, injured, but not knowing the, magnitude of that. And I would sit there and I was like, I've arrived. I felt so special. Sure. But anyway, he took me in his office. He had one of those little lights on his head, and he had a little white beard, and he was German, and he told me I had nodules, and he went, so he shamed me. So he told me to go on vocal rest, and I spent pretty much the next 24 years battling nodules.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I became a teacher young, because I felt like, okay, this is kind of ruining my relationship with singing, first of all, and I felt so sad that no one stopped me, that I didn't want that to happen to other people. So at 19, I got my mom and dad's video camera. I went to the high schools, and I had people sing on camera, and then we would watch it in the room, and we would talk about what was healthy, what was not healthy. And I started studying how the voice works. And because I had to go back and forth to the doctor, and I got to see, like, Dr. Hans von Leyden was the first person to invent the stroboscopy. He invented it. Wow. So I got to see my vocal cords in the 80s, like not quite 80s, the 90s more or less. But, he would just look down and see. But then he developed this technology later. So I was kind of in there in the beginning, before they knew how the vocal cords really functioned. Wow. Yeah.
What a cool opportunity.
I learned so much. And so I teach kind of from that perspective. Yeah. I'm not a musician. I always say that. Because I'm really not a musician. But I am passionate about the vocal cords and the inner voice as well as the external voice. And when I finally was able to experience my own creativity, I stopped having a lot of problems with my own voice. Wow. So I got obsessed with creativity at that point. Yeah. Wow, amazing. So that was my injury.
Yeah, wow. But that I wanted to start with that because I felt like that propelled your further career, like you mentioned. And that, to me, I wanted to go into kind of your philosophy now as a coach, as a vocal coach. Do you prefer vocal coach? Does it really matter? Voice teacher?
It's funny you would ask, because in from where I sit, a voice instructor or a voice teacher is different than a coach. So I do coach and I do audition prep, and those are just tricks.
Yeah.
And they're, to get you where you need to go really fast. They're the shortcuts. That's a coach. And I'm also a coach because I hold people to their goals. But as far as being a singing teacher, I'm a kind of a voice technician. I'll take people that can't sing at all and develop their voices. So, and not a lot of voice teachers will do that. I'll take someone who's considered tone deaf. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm expensive, so if they really want to sing, but there's no such thing as being tone deaf. And a lot of musical people, musicians, they kind of feel like it's, fingernails on the chalkboard to hear someone off pitch for, 10 years, for a few years. Yeah. But it doesn't bother me because I know what's coming down the pike, and it's exciting to see someone learn how to do that. So my philosophy is anyone can sing. We all have the same apparatus. It's not that hard for me to teach someone how to sing pop and musical theater, and even a little bit of a little bit of opera. I feel like teaching yoga would be way harder. There's a lot more involved. So, but it's also very internal. There's a lot of internal things that will affect your external voice. So I guess my mission statement is, just that to be holistic about it.
Yeah. How did you kind of come about developing somewhat of a curriculum for teaching?
It took a while, but that's the thing. You look around, and like Idina Menzel never had really lessons till she was older, and even Sutton Foster had very few. These are Broadway people. Yeah. Pink really just sang from her heart until she injured her voice. Then she had to get lessons. Kelly Clarkson, she won American Idol as a singer, wrecked her voice, had to get lessons. So most of the time, until you see the need for being, trained, 7 days a week, twice on Sunday, you think I'm, a gifted singer can get by, but you need a little bit of training to keep you sustained. But also the demands of pop music and musical theater are crazy. When I was growing up, you were either an alto, so you had the big husky voice, which, or a soprano, and you didn't have to train the entire range and then go even higher. So if you look at music from, the 80s up until late 80s, most belters didn't go above a C, C sharp, or a D female, and men, G. Just a G.
Caps out at that, yeah.
And now it's all music. Dear Evan Hansen is going up to a B flat, and
don't we know?
Yuri, what is his name? Yuri, from
Brendan Urie.
Brendan Urie. He's going up to F sharp. F sharp, where a female can't go. So the demands are crazy. Now that we know how to, manipulate the vocal cords to do all these crazy hard things that only certain people could do before. So I've developed kind of a stage thing where you're in stage 1, you're in stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Sure. It's really simple for me. Whatever somebody else is doing, you can do it. Yeah. You may not sound good, and you may not like doing it, but the vocal cords are, I teach from a speech pathologist perspective about the vocal cords with longitude.
Did you study that at all?
I had to study it because of what I went through. Yeah. But I don't have my degree in that.
My girlfriend's really interested in.
Is she going to do that?
Hopefully, she's got a liberal studies degree, and she's about to finish her capstone class for that. And she's thought about how valuable that is, even in teaching, because she's hoping, just like you, but she's hoping to teach in classroom setting as well. Mm-hmm. But she wants to be a speech pathologist because it's neat to really study the voice. And I was just going to say, in a sense, you mentioned that, you may not always be satisfied with how your voice is in the moment, but you're training those muscles. It's really a muscle study, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. It's how to treat them and to go from that perspective instead of going for the product first. I have to sound this way. Sure. You just you enjoy and employ a process that's going to get you where you need to go. Yeah. And that's really hard because singers, they think because it's in their body, it should just happen. If I just explain to them, this is how the voice works, then they feel like, oh, well, how come I can't do it? They don't understand. It's like any other instrument or any other art form. There's a process. You can't just know and force yourself to do it.
Sure.
So that's half of it, is getting people to trust their own beautiful, amazing instrument.
Yeah. That is very wonderful. And it's cool too because you want to get to a certain point in your career, like you mentioned. And I think for my age kids, I think a lot of us and younger think, well, like you said, the immediacy effect. Why can't we just get there.
Yeah.
Maybe that comes from privilege. I think in a lot of ways for me, I learned that I can't just have everything I want.
Mm-hmm.
And that perspective helped me out because then, like you said, with processes where you're learning to train your voice, you have to be willing to know it's not just going to happen.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Your parents aren't just going to buy you a car.
Or
do you know what I'm saying?
Your parents can help you with the vocal training. You're going to have to do some work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And be patient. That's funny.
That's awesome though. That's very cool. It's exciting because some people, like you said, are tone deaf.
Right.
But really all it takes is training and the willingness to keep going, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we talk about a lot on this show with a lot of different subjects and principles. If you want to be a good filmmaker, Zach Kemper, who was on a couple episodes ago, was saying if you want to be a good filmmaker, or you want to be a good artist in general, you round your interests to be able to try a lot of things. So you have different perspectives on your one thing. That maybe got you into everything. This kind of leads me into your business, Creativity Advocacy. I wanted to ask you kind of, when did you start it? Is this in the same vein as your vocal teaching? You know, I know you were also an author, so that has lots of things are in play with that, but I wanted you to
lots
speak
of
to
tentacles.
that. Yeah.
Well, the voice training thing just obviously, I never said I'm going to be a voice teacher. It's just I started teaching because I'm very passionate about I was learning. What I was learning, I had to share it with everybody, right?
Awesome.
So then it turned into, okay, I'll give you a lesson. And then it turned into, I'll give lessons all day, you know, while I was raising my kids. And so I didn't fall into it. It's from a spiritual perspective, it's like the wounded healer. There's an archetype of the wounded healer, which would be somewhat like the Christ who, you know, had to suffer and die.
Sure.
And then be redeemed. So just that concept of suffering and helping others. Or Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz is that she doesn't know what's going on. She's confused, but she wants to help everybody along while she finds her way. She's the wounded healer. So I didn't know about that at the time, but as I kept studying creativity, you know, and I had certain mentors, they would share that, oh, you're a wounded healer. Because I had so much shame. And, you know, I had a fat ballet teacher growing up. She was fat. And, I mean, I feel really bad. I judged her now that I'm older.
Yeah.
But you have this image of that. So even now, I don't demonstrate necessarily because I don't want anyone to feel bad that I can sing and they can't. So I try not to demonstrate. Sometimes I demonstrate a tone, but I don't sing. I don't sing like I can sing. I really don't sing anymore. So I guess I started really relying on the wounded healer.
I wonder if I funny you mentioned that. I wonder if that's kind of the archetype for the character that I am as well.
Really?
In some ways, I feel like that's kind of what this show is about for me, is in a weird way, I felt like it was an opportunity that fell in my lap. And I was just kind of like, well, I want to kind of be humble through this thing and practice not putting even though I am in front of the camera, not putting myself in that position, but rather giving somebody else a voice to speak.
Yeah.
And that's cool. I've never heard it put that way. I just needed to weigh in on that. It's pretty interesting.
It makes you wonder. Because, you know, I mean, there's a certain, you know, group of people that everything is an archetype. You know, I don't fall in any one camp. I really work hard at not falling into one camp. I like to just create my own camp. So anyway, so the creativity advocacy came from that.
Excellent.
Is that I just did so much studies in creativity that I started coaching people in their projects. They thought, I can't make an album. I could never make. Oh yeah, you can. Let's do it. And then even my brother, who is an art teacher at Art Center College of Design, he found himself like coaching people through projects as animators, and we started talking. And then my son Jordan, he was always helping people with life arts and learning how to travel because he's a traveler. And my partner Jimmy, he does this thing called Day of Advocacy. And so he coaches people up like, what are you passionate about? I don't know. Well, what would you, if you had to have a voice, what would you talk about? I don't know. So we all found ourselves like kind of doing the same thing, wanting to help people with their projects, with their voice. So I decided to change everything into the creativity advocacy. And so now my singing business, which was called With Song, instead of With Love, it's called With Song.
Oh, I like that.
That is a tentacle under the umbrella of creativity advocacy. And it's just because I want creativity to get some attention, mostly because people don't realize, and this is what my one book is about, people don't realize why they feel so driven and why they want so badly to perform and why they get so upset when they don't get cast and why when they don't make it or people don't like their song, why it hurts so deeply. So my studies led me into understanding how this all is totally connected.
Wow.
Our drive to sing and to spend a lot of money on learning how to sing. Who does that, right? It's
Why?
a lot of money. So
Interesting.
It gave the why. So I get to teach the how, and I can help you execute the tone. But let's also look at the why.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So it kind of just evolved.
Yes.
Yeah.
I share a lot of sympathies in that area because I felt similarly when I wanted to make the show. Mm-hmm. Because I felt there's a lot of podcasts and there's a lot of talk shows that really aim at the niche of already established. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wanted to flip that on its head.
Love it.
And it felt like that kind of worked. But what I was going to say is that is your mission for that is so interesting because I'm a big advocate as well for that, for my age, like just peers, because it's like, well, what's holding you back? Why do you think you can't?
You're allowed to have success be whatever you want it to be. But that doesn't mean that everyone around you is going to agree with you. And so then they view you through their lens of what success is. And so obviously when we were growing up, there were sayings, like help your fellow man. That's what defined your success. But now with with the internet and Instagram and followers and subscribers, success looks like a number. And then we accidentally might judge ourselves according to that number, and we promote ourselves according to that number. So the difference between you and me is I can have 0 followers, but I have this organic brick and mortar business that, feeds me to know I am vital and relevant and helping people and making my mark.
Yeah.
And I'm not glued to social media, but someone your age who's starting out, if you don't have those numbers, you start to feel down and you have these feelings every time you go on social media.
It's so weird.
It is so hard to be self-developing.
Yeah.
You're creating your soul right now. You're creating who you are, not just you, but everyone doing something. And I work with, screenplay writers, singers, models, songwriters. Everyone's doing something.
Yeah.
But because they don't have that internal development, then even if you do get all the followers, you're still not happy. So, I love bringing up my beautiful, favorite male singer, Justin Bieber, because everybody just, loved him, but he was not finished developing, and he needed some time, and he made some mistakes, and his fans were not very faithful to him. So nobody has had the following that Justin Bieber has had. But that doesn't mean, he's rich. Yeah, he's Justin Bieber, but he still has so much internal work to do. And then Bo Burnham, if you ever listen to Bo Burnham, he's just like, what's the matter with you people?
Yeah.
And he tries to shine the light. Yeah, he tries to shine the light on you guys. Like, stop worshiping me. Stop. I love him too. So
he's so great to listen to.
He's great, and he'll help you.
Yeah.
But that's the difference between we call it digital native and digital immigrant. I'm a digital immigrant. I self-developed long before I had to worry about what people were clicking, ticking, hearting. I'm who I am. If I'm away from, but I have 4 kids.
Yeah.
And they go on social media. What do you call it? Fasts. They go off social media so that they can self-develop.
Yeah, we do that as well.
So they can check back in with their true self.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
But that's very interesting because, how do you do? That's also in the definition of who you are and your character. So many people think that it's through social media, and that to me is very lost. But it's tough.
Not just lost. So this is one of the points in my book, which I'm going to give it away.
Yeah, I was just getting into that.
Well, you just hit it. So if we're all trying to be influencers, and we're all trying to get followers on Instagram because we have the best furniture and the best ASS, I won't say the word, and the best boyfriend or girlfriend or washboard stomach, whatever. If we're all trying to do that as our living or as our goal, not everybody can make it. But then I'm talking everyone, not just where I live in LA. Everyone wants to do it now.
Yeah.
So if everyone's focusing on that, then who is left to hold down the fort? Who's left to be our intellectual guides and our spiritual guides and someone who's going to build a bridge?
I mean, literally maybe my parents' generation or the grandparents of, for my age group, who's going, like you said, who's going to ground that.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be traditionalists. I feel like I'm very that way. I want to be a traditionalist because I don't believe that success is defined by that. Mm-hmm. And I think people who have been watching, have been seeing me say that a lot because I think it is valuable especially since my audience is younger. Mm-hmm. People need to know just because you're being hate shamed or whatever on the internet does not mean that transfers over into real life. How different am I on social media than in real life? That is a big one. Well, and
the hope for you and everyone like you is to find integration.
Yes.
So that you're not just perpetuating the external, because you're still not going to be happy. So even if you decide to make your podcast go a certain direction to get more followers, yay, you got more followers. Yay, you can go back to Italy. Yay, you have money. But that still doesn't help you get your message. This is your message. This is your message. And people are hungry for it, whether they know it or not.
Yeah. You just got to bring them around to it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, your book that you just released, is it The Creative Conundrum? Is that what you go by?
Yes, it's funny because there was already a book called Creativity Conundrum.
Uh-huh.
Darn it. So the way my son did the logo, it says Creativity Connection, then you cross out the connection, and it turned into Conundrum. And so I'm really just telling everybody what I learned about creativity, which is every single creative act that we do has a goal, and the goal is to connect people and to draw the community. That's really the goal of all creative acts. And creative acts means scientific development.
Yeah.
It means a pot of soup. Creativity is vast. So what I learned in my studies, and I studied David Bohm, Albert Einstein. I studied metaphysics, quantum physics, and I'm not smart like that. They made me do it. I was not happy. But when it all came around to it,
sure.
So that's what the book is really about. But then, so that's connection. Then you cross that out, and it's conundrum, because everybody I work with is, their heart is breaking because they want to be a singer and they're not getting any followers, or they're not getting a record deal, or no one's coming to their concerts, or no one's buying their SoundCloud song, because it's, first of all, it's saturated.
Yeah.
And the pain of that is what the conundrum is.
Love it.
So that's and it's not
funny
really,
how we prefaced that with our talk just a minute ago.
So,
wonderful.
Yeah, so we're kindred spirits. You found me because I'm a voice teacher,
right?
But there's some kind of synchronicity between us that we are on the same page. And I'm 30 years, I don't know. I can't do math. So if you're 20,
you don't have to disclose
I'm 54. I am 34
yeah.
years older than you, and we are looking through the same lens and agree and have so much agreement on what's going on here. Because if society is full of superficial people, 13 to 36, let's just say, 35, if society is made up of these individuals who are unhappy, who are wishing for something that they're never going to get, and who just are chasing after this superficiality, then our existence is superficial. We're missing out on our humanity.
And you only got one life.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It comes up a lot. It's like, why would you want to live your life? My thing is, there's so many social pressures, like we keep saying, that constrain people my age into a niche that maybe they're not comfortable with.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, in a sense, even through the collegiate spectrum, parents wanting their kids to be lawyers or doctors when really they want to do something else. And to be honest, I've learned so much by having my parents let me do this stuff. They've just let me do whatever I wanted to do. But in a way, I've learned a lot of big lessons from that, because they're still tough on me and they still tough love. They want me to grow. But at the same time, it was go try it. And so I did. This show, I wanted to try it. And I just tried it. And for me, I've learned so much more about how to use the arts as a medium for business.
Good.
But I think that's what people get confused about. Like, the arts cannot be a business. And I had Barry Kemper was chatting with me about that, because he comes from a similar background as you, where he's been in the arts for years, and he ended up making it his career. And he put it, I did not expect this to happen. I still don't know how I got to be able to be in the arts as long as I have. I wanted to know what you thought about bringing the arts in a business perspective.
Well, it's so funny. This is, these are all conversations that I have with my brother, Nick, and that I kind of throw in on these sidebars in my manuscript.
Sure.
So obviously I think what you're describing is, selling out. So some people think that, commerce, commerciality, commerce and arts can't coexist, and that this is something new. But actually, my brother Nick told me that it's been going on since, like, I think it was Michelangelo or Da Vinci.
Sure.
They had to write letters promoting themselves to the Vatican, to the church. They had to they had to, present their work. People had to promote themselves.
Yep.
It just wasn't social media. So it wasn't your whole life, and your existence didn't hinge on it. And people that didn't get accepted by their social surroundings, like Van Gogh, who, he was kind of unstable and he wasn't accepted. And the letters that he wrote to his brother Theo, you could hear his pain and his heartache. And the guy who did The Scream, just lots of depression. And certain people, William Blake, never was accepted. He was an artist and a writer, and they had a message. They really did. But it wasn't ever noticed until long after they were dead. So it's been going on for a long time, this struggle to be an artist, to get your message out there, and to be successful.
Sure.
And truth be told, there's no formula. But when you're trying to promote yourself as with nothing, and you're making it, and you don't have a talent, and you don't have a skill, and you don't have a message, and you don't have an art, it seems not fair.
How many of them are there, too? There's
I know. So it
so
seems like,
many.
wait, what? I have
So
a message. How come everyone's following the superficial couple, when they don't have anything to say? Why are we chasing after that? So when you're talking about art and commerce, that is a very serious subject. And when you're just talking about just the commerciality of, selling oneself and selling out,
yeah,
that's like a little separate. But so I don't know what I think other than Barry is lucky. He's really lucky.
Yeah.
And
as well as you too. I mean, it's cool.
I'm surrounded by the arts. I'm so lucky that I just love people. I love teaching. I love to hear people sing. It never bothers me to hear the same exercises 7, 8, 9 hours a day.
Yeah.
Never.
But I think what you just said is interesting, because I think every artist, this is what I've been learning, could be wrong, but every artist has to be able to cope with the annoying things in their processes. Good
word, yeah.
Because that then propels the dream, hopefully. I've been curious about that, because I feel that way. And people I have on this show, I've chatted about that a bit. It is very interesting to think that, a lot of people give up on that early stage. We mentioned that.
Yeah.
A lot of people, because they're not getting the immediate gratification that is so the theme of our society because of social media, which drives me nuts, because I wish people knew something different. Do you know what I mean? But in that vein, it is so interesting that people who could be very successful don't do so because they get annoyed with the processes. Now, bouncing off of that, because that's kind of a finished thought there, negativity is a theme that rolls along with kind of the discussion we had earlier, because I think social media tends to have such a negative connotation, just like you said. But positivity. Yeah. I'm big on that, because I was very depressed going into college. And I've chatted about this. People who watch this know, because I've chatted about this, but I very much so was depressed. But then I finally found a way to beat it, and it was through art. And it was actually through a short film that I made with Zach, who was on the show. And it was like, boom. I stapled that part of my life to a wall, and I left it behind and I kept going because
So
I
beautiful.
knew positivity was big. Jimmy Marino is a huge advocate for that, and a man who is so positive, and like that builds a lot in me, realizing, wow, I have, I can be very negative about a lot of things and opinions.
Because you're smart, yeah.
Well,
Because
yeah, I think
it's critical thinking.
Yeah, critical thinking.
Yeah, you
sure.
take something, you hold it up to the light, and you can tear it apart, and then you choose positivity, right? Instead of just bagging on the negative and getting hung up on the negative. You choose the positive. But to look at something, to analyze it, always the truth is in the tension and the struggle, and yet you have to hang your hat on the thing that's going to help you move forward, not the thing that's going to make you sad. But feeling your feelings is important. Yeah. Knowing you were depressed instead of pretending you're not, working through it, doing your art form, and then seeing how you grow from that. That's what it's all about.
Oh, I know. And
that's creativity at work, transforming you.
Boom.
Boom.
Yeah. This is I'm loving this episode. It's a lot of very important factoids that people can take a hold of. But similarly, you mentioned too about organizations, and I think it goes 50. I think it's 50-50, because as an artist, as much as you require a lot out of people to consume what you do, I've been learning this in the musical theater sectors after me and Travis did that show this summer that you came and saw. I realized how much I was asking of people to come and watch. Yeah. But then in the same way, how much am I going to support? Sometimes it is hard because it's way out of the way, but if you can and you are available, you should.
And here you have an opportunity to make a difference. And you guys, pretty much this in Santa Clarita, I don't know if you have so much to heal from, I'm not saying you guys have silver spoons.
Right.
But in Santa Clarita, everybody has a pretty decent childhood. Not everybody, but most. And so to turn around and see people wanting to make a difference it's a beautiful thing, and that does connect everybody.
Yeah. Wow, that's wonderful. Really, I think it's more of an encouragement. With this show, I seek to encourage, because I understand that stigmatism for everybody to feel, ooh, like, let's be negative about something, or wow, I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. I've more recently been chatting with some of my friends who will literally say, oh, I can't do that. I want to, but I can't. You can. You can.
See?
I mean, sometimes it's a confidence thing. I think I'm big on that, because I felt like I was so not confident in myself, and I've built that confidence because I've realized there are so many ways to do that. But I want to ask you, kind of in the highlights of your career as a whole, and the different things you've gotten to do over the many years that you've been teaching and writing, and what are kind of some of the inspirations that kept you keeping on, I guess you could say.
Yeah, well, it's a really good question. So, so when I was your age, I just jumped on this thing called marriage bandwagon that every one of my friends got married the same year. There was a wedding every 2 weeks because we all came from the same little circle. And then I had kids. And so that kept me going right there. That's all I needed.
Wow.
So that made you get up in the morning, and it kept me going. And then I had to really fight. I was always conflicted about my art. So in the beginning, I thought I was going to be a singer, and I was a songwriter. And so I thought, well, I guess I'll just have some kids because it's the natural order. So I had my kids, and then it was literally impossible to go on tour or anything. So I just dabbled. I had some shows. I was paid to sing, for years. I probably sang in events, civic events, and weddings. So I was a professional for a short time with kids, and it was fun. But basically just having a family gave me purpose, and my art kind of took a back seat. So at 3 a.m. is when I wrote my first memoir book.
What was that called again? You were on the news for it, right?
Maternally Yours.
Maternally
or Maternally Ours.
Yeah, that's
so. And then I went
neat.
back to school. I didn't go to school till I was 38, and that kept me going because I was really curious after being, submerged in suburbia and very narrow thought forms and one grocery store. Not really, but one way of dressing, one way of decorating. So I was really hungry. So my family, my partner is Jimmy. He's so smart, so stimulating. He kept me going. And we did our own church for a while, and that was super stimulating. He was the pastor, and he was pulling in all kinds of disciplines together, not just one.
Yeah.
So just being curious, having kids, and I can't not be an artist. I can't not write. So when that's you just write at 5 a.m, 3 a.m, whenever you can.
Wonderful.
But the driving thing for me right now is the message of creativity for people that are getting sucked into the social media trap, and to offer a voice like you are here, and a chance to experience that you don't have to be depressed or down or empty, that you have something to contribute. That's just because I'm older, and if I never write another book, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But
right.
I don't want to see a society go down in a direction where being an influencer is your only success. Like, wait, what? I don't want that.
Right. And if you didn't, and the thing being that if you don't reach a mass audience, you didn't do anything with your life. But that's just because I think the idols that people have in our culture are the showbiz people who do reach a massive audience. And what a platform,
it's massive.
right?
It's a huge platform, yeah.
But what I'm trying to get at is even your small communities of people, which could be a couple thousand, even then you still got to hopefully influence that many lives.
Huge. Yeah.
Hopefully you did get to, not 1 million.
Right.
That number to me, 7 digits. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And there's so many. I don't know if you know anything like major pop culture, but there's all these young like hip hop rappers that are coming up that are literally horrible at what, they're just stupid. Not stupid people, I wouldn't say that, but I think what they're trying to do is stupid, because I don't think it requires a lot of artistic value. Some people, but there are some young ones, like you said, where people don't really know who they are, but somehow they have 1 million followers.
Well,
and
it tells you who is got the phone in their hands under the covers at night. It tells you. So if 13-year-olds are the ones clicking the most likes, that there's millions of 13-year-olds that get to define culture, and they're underdeveloped.
Were you just that bold? Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
True though. Very true.
Right. So you can get 1 million followers under the age of 15, maybe. But it's like when we were talking earlier and you said something about your background. I'm like, your background, you're building your background. You're 20.
I'm 20.
It's the same thing. These rappers are just doing what there's age appropriate for them. It's developmentally age appropriate. But to then get millions of followers, what is the repercussion to their own soul at such a young age,
or the intrinsic value,
and the entire culture at large?
Sure. Wow.
It's no small thing for me. It's really, really big philosophy, and there's a huge shift, and you're a part of it.
Yeah. So, I'm right in it, but
you really are.
Yeah, it is crazy. But as we kind of start wrapping things up, I just wanted to give you kind of a little spotlight to be able to either talk about your book or your future plans or whatever, and you can go right into this camera since I'm not really in this discussion, but share whatever you got kind of coming up.
Oh, wow. That's nice. Gosh, I mean, I've been talking for so long. I'm sure I don't want to hear any more of my own voice. I just was telling my partner the other night, because a lot of my students are seeing some success and getting together with record producers and managers and going places. And I was telling my partner that in one respect, I'm so happy because we've worked so hard. And in the other respect, I get a very sick feeling. It doesn't necessarily make me really happy. And he was asking me, well, why? You're the only person on the planet that would have a sad feeling about somebody's success. And I just want people to be self-developed. And I want them to understand process. And the whole point of creativity is knowing who you are, knowing what your unique gift is, and then finding out how to plug that in to society at large. And that's when we're going to have a human race that cares about each other and that is sustained, not through selfishness and, plastic straws. I mean, something so small. But when we realize that nothing is isolated, everything is connected. Everything I do, everything I say is connected to the whole. And scientifically, there's proof that we're all entangled. All the matter's entangled. And once people can understand that, I think that's how you find your happiness, because it's not just singularly based. Nothing is isolated. And that's my heart. So it's not that I'm not happy people are going to make it. It's just I want the people that have substance and self-development and that have gone through process and worked hard to be, like you and like my own kids and some of the people that I meet that are young, that they're on that road. And I want that road to be the louder one, not the empty, superficial one. That's my hope. But that's it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Rene, to say that this was only inspiring would be too little to say. I'm very thankful to have had you on and to have you speak kind of to this younger generation, in a sense.
In a sense,
because that's kind of my immediate audience. But I'm hoping that people like you and people like Barry are people that will eventually expand the niche of the show a little bit. That now we can start bringing in adults that aren't just supporters of their kids, but maybe this expands a little further. Maybe, I can be a voice for that. But I wanted to thank you for being on.
Thank you.
You can find Rene on your website, right? Is it reneurbanovich.com? Mm-hmm. Is that what your website is?
Mm-hmm. And it's hooked up. I don't know if you got confused or not, but it's hooked up to Creativity Advocacy. You go back and forth from each website.
Yeah, there's a link for her actual business on her personal website. You can find her there and take more, add a few more students if you can take it. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 1 in 20 Show. We've got a lot coming down the pipeline. Every day it grows, and I'm very excited. If you stick with me and us, we've got some very neat stuff coming down the pipe, and I can't say what it is yet, but we're excited. So thank you very much for supporting the show, for supporting the vision. I hope you're inspired. I definitely was today by Rene and all these people that are coming on. So stay tuned. We got a lot coming at you.